Every investment banking interview will start with, tell me about yourself, or walk me through your resume. Either way, they're both asking for the exact same thing. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to answer this question in 3 simple steps. Now, before we get started, let's talk about what you should never do. Now, most people, whenever they hear, tell me about yourself, or walk me through your resume, they start listing out in chronological order everything that's on their resume or CV. And that's not what you should do. As an interviewer, if I wanted to know what's on your resume, then I would just read it. What I actually want is the context behind your decision making. Why did you attend this university? Why did you study chemical engineering? Why did you study maths? Why did you choose to study in this city? I want to know the context behind your decision making. And unfortunately, 90% of candidates answer this question wrong. The proper way to answer this question is to break it down into 3 simple steps. Since you only have roughly 2 minutes to answer this question, so you should ideally allocate 30 seconds to each step. The first step is to briefly describe your background. The second step is to talk about what interested you in investment banking and what did you do as a result of your interest. Finally, the third step is to talk about why are you at this particular bank. Now don't worry, I'm going to give you a couple of examples as well as break down each of these steps. So let's start with step number 1, your background. So here you're going to briefly summarize your background story and what makes you stand out. So begin in chronological order. Most people start with where they were born, where they grew up, and where they studied. So for example, I was born in China, but I studied at Durham University in the UK, where I was head of the investment society. Another example could be, I'm originally French, but I moved to the US when I was 6, and I studied finance at Yale University, where I also became head of the investment club. Keep your background story simple, don't overcomplicate it. No one is going to hire you because of where you grew up or where you were born. So now let's move on to step number 2, your investment banking spark. This is the fun part. Here you have to tell the interviewer what was that initial spark which made you interested to go into investment banking in the first place. Was it after a work experience in investment banking? Was it after attending an event and an investment banker came and described what they do on a day-to-day basis? Was it after networking with investment bankers? Or was it after your friend going to investment banking and that made you interested in pursuing the same career path? Your spark could be anything. It just has to be investment banking specific. And after you became interested in investment banking, what did you do? Did you just sit there and wait until someone handed you an investment banking job? Or were you proactive? So you also have to explain what you did as a result of your interest in investment banking. And by taking action, by being proactive, it's what's going to separate you from the 10,000, the 100,000 applicants which are out there. And the more proactive you were, the more actions you took to learn more about the industry, to network with investment bankers, to get more work experience, that is what's going to separate you. So let's take an example. You could say, I first got interested in investment banking after studying mergers and acquisitions in my economics degree. And during that summer, I interned at an M&A boutique in central London, where I had the opportunity to work on valuation models and create information memorandums. I really enjoyed it, and I got to network with senior investment bankers. So let's break down this example. This candidate was first introduced to investment banking by studying a mergers and acquisition module during their degree, but was then proactive enough to go out and get work experience in M&A, as well as enjoying it and network with investment bankers to actually know the lifestyle of an investment banker. Alternatively, you could say, I did a semester abroad in Paris, where I met 2 senior investment bankers who worked at an M&A boutique. And we got along really well. And after a while, I became interested in the work they were doing, especially in the TMT sector. So after returning back to London, I switched my major from French literature to French and business. And then during the summer, I also interned at an M&A boutique, which focuses on TMT transactions. So here, this candidate was introduced to investment banking by networking with 2 senior investment bankers. And remember, try to be as specific as possible in your example. But this candidate was also proactive in the sense of switching their major from French literature to then French for business, as well as interning at an M&A boutique to learn more about the investment banking lifestyle and the industry. Now, finally, your spark, your investment banking spark could be anything. It just has to be investment banking specific. But what is more important here is your follow through. What did you do as a result of your interest in investment banking? Did you start to read up on the industry? Did you start to follow up on M&A announcements, IPO announcements? Did you learn how to do financial modeling? So it's important for you to be specific as to what you did as a result of your interest in investment banking. Finally, step 3. Which is, why are you here? Why are you applying at this investment bank? Now you might be thinking, wait, this is pretty obvious. I'm here to get the internship, the analyst role, or the associate role. But it's not that simple, because it's all well and good to say you want to go into investment banking and you were proactive at getting work experience, but why this particular bank? And here you're going to have to combine your background as well as do a bit of research on the firm itself. So for example, you could structure your answer like this. I'm here today because I want to combine my technical engineering background with finance. Because in the long run, I want to be able to advise companies within the TMT sector on how they can raise capital. And I know your TMT group has a great reputation for deal flow. And I recently read a deal that you completed. Insert the name of the deal or the company. So joining your firm will put me on track to achieving my long-term goal. Now, in order for you to answer this question successfully, you're going to have to do some research on the company's recent deal history. So you can quickly go online and look at their deal sheet and just look at some of their recent deals. So within the last year, and try to get just some specific numbers, because sometimes as interviewers, we will quiz you on those deals. So just get some basic high level numbers for those deals and you should be fine. Now, if you want to see how we put step 1, 2, and 3 together, as well as get access to other investment banking interview questions and answers, then join our free members area. I'll put the link in the description below. But wait, before you go ahead and do that, let's talk about some of the common missteps candidates make whenever they're answering this question. And this is where a lot of candidates get in trouble. So issue number 1, avoid spending too much time explaining your background. Now, as interesting as your background may be, no one is going to hire you because you grew up in China. No one is going to hire you because you speak 2 different languages. Now, that's great for socializing, but no one is going to give you an investment banking role because of that. What's important is step 2 and step 3. Why are you interested in investment banking? What did you do as a result of your interest? And why are you interested in this firm? The second issue is, do not overcomplicate your narrative. If you find that it doesn't flow, or if it's going above 2 minutes, shorten it. Make sure it's coherent, make sure it's fluent and fluid when you're explaining it. Try practicing on a friend or on someone that you know. Issue number 3. Now this is where I see a lot of candidates failing. You need to provide some kind of link from your previous work experience to investment banking and to where you are right now. Your story has to make sense. You can't just say that you are working in construction but then you decided to go into investment banking. You need to be able to clearly talk about the link between that. If you can't, then your story isn't going to make sense. And if you need help on how to get investment banking work experience, I'm going to make a dedicated video showing you exactly how to get work experience in investment banking. And there are a lot of tricks and tips which I'm sure 99% of candidates who are struggling to get work experience have no idea about. So make sure to check out that video after this. Finally, the 4th issue is having work experience in private equity or hedge fund and then applying to investment banking. The issue is typically investment bankers, after 2 years of experience, they will then exit into private equity or hedge fund. So having that experience before you go into investment banking, it seems counterintuitive. So you will get some challenges. Now that said, even I was personally guilty of this. My first work experience was at a hedge fund. So even I was challenged as to why do I want to move out of hedge fund to then go into investment banking, which is taking a step back. So you need to be able to explain it. If you're having any issues with this question or any other investment banking interview question, then just write it in the comment section below and I'll try to answer it there, or I'll answer it in our weekly Q&A session. Alternatively, if you want me to respond quicker, then just add me on Instagram and you can ask me there and I should respond within a couple of hours. So as a quick recap, this is arguably one of the most important questions you're going to answer because it's going to be the first impression you make on your interviewer. If you do a good job here, then the interview is going to be on your side. So it's important that you know exactly how to answer this question. And remember, you have to use the 3 steps and put everything into context. So briefly describe your background in 30 seconds and then talk about how you were interested in investment banking and what did you do as a result. And finally, why are you at this bank right now? Now, by answering the question like this, you would have also successfully answered why are you interested in investment banking. So you're effectively killing 2 birds with 1 stone by answering the question like this. Okay, if you've enjoyed this video, then please hit subscribe and I will see you on our next video.